Hello, everybody. So we got some good news today. The stock is up. MicroStrategy is up 13% on a day where Bitcoin moved, just about 2%. So really, it overcorrects to the downside, but it overshoots to the upside. And I think some of it had to do with some good news released earlier in the day, talking about MicroStrategy. So Michael Saylor potentially meeting with the next president of the United States, at least his son. So that was a big news. That launched a whole, Trump max view of the United States, what if there's a strategic reserve. But it was the early good news of the day. We had a good news after market close, which is the subject of the video, which is a $2 billion raise. $2 billion raise in the form of preferred stock. So let's get started. That's the big news. Of course, those NAVs, those super low NAVs that I highlighted a few days ago, they didn't last too long. We're at 1.91 right now, by the way. Anyways, let's go. So first of all, keyword here about the announcement. So we know we had the 21-21 plan, right? And we know he's at 18 billion on the ATM. He's only at 3 billion on the convertible debt. But this is the keyword here. He added 2 billion of preferred stock. And how do I know he added it? Because when you read in furtherance, this is in addition. So there's going to be 2 billion in addition to that. So we're now going to be at 44 billion of total raise ever since Q3 was announced. Of course, he hasn't implemented it fully, but that's the plan. And my view is that this plan is going to be much faster than the 3 years he outlined. He's already almost done with the ATM fully. He has to catch up with a convertible debt. He hasn't been doing too much of those, but now he's doing this, the preferred. So I think that is a stunning move. What do I want to say? I want to say that this move is Black Hole 101. Black Hole Strategy 101. You may remember my early videos about Bitcoin is he's trying to get money from the capital market. So the money stock, M2, global M2, US M2, the money stock keeps growing. There's more and more money in the system. Half of that money is going to stick to financial instruments, going to stick to equities, going to stick to bonds. And then Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, is such equities and is such bonds that can be purchased by the new capital, but that capital does not stay within TradFi. That capital goes straight into Bitcoin. That's why it's a black hole, because it's only a one-way transition from MicroStrategy to Bitcoin. It's a one-way wall that takes the money from the equities and from the bonds and turns it into Bitcoin. And so he's been successful in that strategy, first of all, with equities, with the QQQ inclusion, which surprised a lot of people. I was very pleased. The QQQ is the best index, and they are now 0.5% of the QQQ. That was outstanding. They're going to get perpetual money from retirement accounts, from retail investors, financial advisors. Regardless, whoever buys the QQQ, they're going to get that capital flow in. Check for the equities. Then they got the convertible bonds. You can see I have bonds here on my big metric, and I put all sorts of bonds in there, not just the traditional bonds, convertible bonds. So that's check two. He has the most popular convertible bonds in the market. And with that, you get hedge fund, and I estimate about 75% of the buyers of convertible bonds are hedge funds who want to do gamma trading. They want to bet on the volatility and the volatility alone. So they buy the convertible bonds only for the option, for the call option embedded with it. And then you also have convertible bond ETFs, which are retirees who like the return. And actually, if you look at the biggest convertible bond ETF, which is a BlackRock ETF here, you can see the top bond, the top convertible bond in the convertible bond ETF, in the biggest convertible bond ETF out there is MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is 4% of the top convertible bond ETF, just because it is the convertible bond ETF that has performed the most. And so it rises to the top. They have the best convert. The best convert rises to the top in an ETF like that. So they're getting that convertible bond money from the hedge funds who want to do gamma trading, from the bond ETFs, about 25%, 75%. And now what do we have? We now have the preferred stock. So preferred stock opens up a whole world of TradFi money which loves preferred. And I'm putting retirees as the big chunk. Of course, you have a lot of financial institutions who have to buy preferred, who don't have a choice. You have insurance companies who apparently love preferred as well. A lot of people love preferred, but by trying to offer preferred, you're opening yourself a whole new world of TradFi money. And let me show you some of that TradFi money. You expand the pool, the access to more capital. You make the black hole more sticky. I just had a cursory look at the preferred stock. That's what I meant. That's not preferred bond. Preferred stock funds. So there's about 50 billion in AUM based on just my cursory reading of all of the preferred securities funds. And so if you look, iShares, of course, is yet again the biggest ETF in preferred securities. That's 14 billion under management. Then First Trust, 5 billion. Then Invesco, 4.5 billion. Then 2 billion for Global X. And then, of course, because this is a product targeted at retirees, a lot of retirees love the preferred stock. You're going to find a lot of money in the mutual funds. And mutual funds are a little more opaque. It's a little harder to find them all. But you can see I found this random mutual fund, 6.9 billion. This other random mutual fund, Nuveen, 4 billion. This other random one, 5.5 billion. So the mutual funds have billions and billions in AUM, and so do the ETFs. And so just when I did a cursory look, just adding it up, based on a quick research, I could already find $50 billion of assets that are flowing, that are invested into the preferred stock of equities. Hence why Saylor wants to issue a preferred stock. And a preferred stock, most of my viewers will know a preferred stock, but a preferred stock is higher up in the capital structure and usually pays a dividend. It's a form of bond. It's very close to a bond, but it's higher up in the capital structure and it's a stock. But the key thing is that you own a preferred for income, and so that's an income strategy. He's targeting that population who wants their income. And MicroStrategy, what do? They're a treasury company. So I think of their stock, I think of their convertible debt, I think of their preferred stock. I think of this as their product. This is what they deliver to the market. Of course, they have a software business, and the software business flows through the income statement. But today, much of their business is not about selling a product. It's about becoming a provider of financial instruments. And so these flow via the cash flow statement. So the company is growing. The black hole is growing via the cash flow statement, via acquiring funds, via cash flow statement. This is very similar to a business that would thrive, for example, selling gift card. For the longest time, Starbucks was an example of being accused of being a pseudo bank because of how many gift cards they have. This is a little similar to that. The black hole of MicroStrategy, it's growing via that cash flow statement, via issuing those new instruments who bring in money into the company, and then that company is turned into Bitcoin. That's the black hole, and they tap capital wherever they can find it, and they really surely hope to find it in the preferred. And of course, the theory behind that is that every single financial instrument is better when it's backed by Bitcoin. The theory is that those financial instruments, those preferred stocks that MSTR issues, are going to flow to the top of those preferred stock ETFs and bonds, just like the convertible bonds flew to the top of the convertible bond ETF and mutual funds. That's the assumption, because every financial instrument is better if backed by Bitcoin. So he's going to issue preferred stock backed by Bitcoin. And that's considered by the market typically way less risky, because the money that you get when you issue a preferred stock, that money is not going into some risky business venture or risky acquisition. No, that money is going straight into buying Bitcoin. And so there's some underlying belief in Bitcoin if you buy those securities. Key question is, how will he pay the yield on the preferreds? How will he pay the yields on the preferred? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you my theory on how he will pay the yields on the preferred. My theory is this. as the stock becomes more and more traded, as Bitcoin becomes more, well, Bitcoin's not going to become more volatile, but MicroStrategy attracts so many different opinions. The stock is going to remain and keep remaining volatile. The bump that we had today in the stock price after such sharp drops before is an example of volatility just staying around. As the volatility remains and increases, the demand for the convertible bonds is going to keep coming. And as the convertible bond get even more interesting, my view is that he might be able to issue convertible bond, the future one, and he's got 18 billion left of convertible bonds to issue, not on the ATM, on the 21-21 plan here. So he's got 18 billion left of convertibles to issue. My guess is that some of these convertible debt is going to be issued at negative interest rate. And why would you have negative interest rate? Well, that's because the people who buy the bonds, they don't really buy it because they want to get repaid. No, they buy it because they want to buy the MSTR call option embedded within the convertible bond. When a company sells a convertible bond, it's a way for them to collect a premium on that option that they include into the debt. And because MicroStrategy is such a volatile stock, they're so volatile that these options, the premium on these options are very high. And so when they issue that, they collect that option premium. And my guess is that the option premium that is going to be needed in the convertible bonds in the future is going to be even more expensive than today. And because of that, a negative interest rate will have to be paid on the bond for the privilege of owning the MSTR call option that is 4 years out in the future. So because of that pricey premium in the embedded call option, which hedge funds need for their gamma trading, they buy the converts. The hedge funds buy the converts for the call option. They will be able to potentially earn negative interest rate, and that negative interest rate would be earned on a much bigger chunk of capital. And so issue the convertible bonds, get a bunch of those convertible bonds at a negative interest rate, and then that's step one. And then your step two is you pay the yield from the negative interest rates to the preferred. So for example, if you were to issue $4 billion of convertible debt at minus 3% negative interest rate, and this is not that far-fetched. Go back before 2020, we saw that before 2020 in Europe. So anyways, you would issue $4 billion of convertible at minus 3%, and that could finance the $2 billion of preferred stock paying, say, 6%. That could totally finance that. So the negative interest rate is they make money from being lent money. They make money from that, and then they take that money and they send it to the preferred stock. So that's one way they could finance that. In my opinion, they could also use their cash flow and their business and whatever way they think of using the business and using the money. But in my view, this is very smart. And of course, the one thing that I think is next that I wait is just a plain old vanilla simple bond. I think there will be a time when MicroStrategy just does very simple bonds, like traditional regular bonds too, and that's another huge chunk of capital in the market, the biggest really that he yet has to tap. And I think that's going to be the same process, which is if he issues regular bonds, he's going to be able to pay those regular bonds, in my view, from perhaps negative interest rate on the converts. This is still speculation. We have to see, of course. This is not financial advice. This is not investment advice. This is just entertainment. I hope you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on X, follow me on Patreon. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.